Let's talk about why comfort makes you weak and you built the cage yourself, with your own hands, with your own choices, with every time you chose the easier path, not because it was better, but because it was softer, with every morning you stayed in bed 5 minutes longer than you should have, with every difficult conversation you postponed, with every risk you calculated into paralysis, with every hunger you fed immediately before it had the chance to make you stronger. You built a perfect cage, climate-controlled, well-lit, stocked with everything you need, and you called it a good life. And somewhere underneath the comfort, something is dying. Not dramatically, not with a crisis you can point to and say, there, that is the moment everything went wrong. Just quietly. The way a muscle atrophies when it is never used. The way a blade dulls when it never meets resistance. The way a man slowly becomes the shape of his couch, his routine, his managed and acceptable and perfectly comfortable life that demands nothing from him and therefore produces nothing in him. You are not unhappy. That is the problem. If you were unhappy, you would change something. But you are comfortable. And comfort is the most sophisticated trap ever devised because it does not feel like a trap. It feels like success. It feels like the reward you were promised if you followed the rules and did the right things and arrived at the place where nothing is too difficult anymore. You arrived. And now you are disappearing inside the arrival. Nietzsche saw this coming before the modern world had fully constructed its machinery of comfort. He called it the age of the last man. The creature at the end of history who has solved the problem of suffering by eliminating everything that produces it, who has engineered a life of such thorough pleasantness that the very capacities that made him human, the hunger, the striving, the willingness to bleed for something greater than immediate satisfaction, have quietly atrophied from disuse. The last man blinks. That is Nietzsche's image, not a dramatic collapse. Just a blink, the mild, pleasant, slightly confused expression of a creature who has optimized so thoroughly for comfort that he has lost the ability to want anything that comfort cannot provide, who has traded his fire for warmth, who has traded his hunger for fullness, who has traded the possibility of becoming something extraordinary for the certainty of remaining something adequate. The most disturbing part of Nietzsche's vision is not the last man himself, it is the crowd's response when Zarathustra describes him. They cheer, they recognize themselves in the description, and feel pride rather than shame. They want to be the last man. They see the elimination of striving and suffering not as a loss but as an achievement, as the destination that all of human civilization was pointing toward. Give us this, they say, make us comfortable, make us safe, take away the difficulty and the hunger and the cold and the effort, and give us the warm room and the easy morning and the life that asks nothing of us. And something in you recognizes that crowd, because you have been standing in it, quietly, comfortably, applauding the elimination of the very things that would have made you extraordinary. Understand the biology first, before the philosophy, before the motivation, because your body does not care about your philosophy. It responds to mechanism, and the mechanism of comfort is the same regardless of what you believe about it. The human organism was not designed for comfort. It was designed for adaptation, for the ancient cycle of stress and recovery that has been the engine of human development for 200,000 years. Every system in your body operates on the same fundamental principle. Apply load, recover, emerge with greater capacity, remove load entirely, atrophy. This is not metaphor. This is the literal cellular mechanism of muscle growth. You apply stress to the fiber. The fiber sustains microscopic damage. The body repairs it stronger than it was because the body's only language for the future is the present. If the present is demanding, the future must be built to handle it. If the present is comfortable, the future can be built smaller. Why maintain expensive biological machinery that serves no function? The body is not sentimental. It builds what is needed and dismantles what is not. It is ruthlessly efficient in the way that only things shaped by millions of years of genuine existential pressure can be ruthlessly efficient. Your mind works the same way. Your character works the same way. Your capacity for resilience, for patience, for the ability to sit with difficulty without immediately reaching for relief. These are not fixed traits you either have or don't have. They are capacities, built through use, lost through neglect, exactly like muscle, exactly like cardiovascular fitness, exactly like every other biological system that your comfort is quietly cannibalizing while you call the process rest. Every time you tolerate discomfort without running from it, you are building. Every time you choose the harder option when the easier one is available and equally valid, you are building. Every time you sit with the difficult feeling, instead of immediately medicating it with distraction or food or alcohol, or the warm glow of a screen, you are building something in yourself that cannot be bought or inherited or shortcut. Every time you don't, you are dismantling. Comfort is not neutral. This is the thing that the comfortable life will never tell you, because the comfortable life requires your continued participation to sustain itself. Comfort is not the absence of harm. Comfort is active subtraction. It is taking something from you every single day that you cannot see being taken, because the taking is gradual and pleasant and surrounded by the language of self-care and well-deserved rest. Machiavelli watched empires fall, not as a historian interested in the past, but as a strategist desperate to understand the present. He studied the pattern with the obsessive precision of a man who knew that the pattern was not just historical, it was biological. It was the same process playing out at the scale of civilization that plays out in every individual life. The pattern is always the same. A people are forged in genuine hardship. The founders face existential threat, not metaphorical threat, real threat, the kind where the alternative to excellence is extinction. They have no choice but to develop extraordinary capacities, because the world they inhabit demands extraordinary capacities just to survive in it. And they build something great, not despite the difficulty, but because of it. The difficulty was the forge. The difficulty was the architect. The difficulty was the specific pressure that produced the specific strength that built the specific thing that lasted. And then the thing they built creates comfort for the generation that follows, and that generation inherits the product of suffering without inheriting the process that produced it. They live inside the structure without knowing how to build it. They consume the surplus without understanding how to generate it. They possess the strength in the form of institutions and traditions and accumulated wealth without possessing the internal capacity that created those things. And slowly the capacity atrophies, the hunger dulls, the tolerance for difficulty shrinks, until the things that would have been ordinary challenges for the founders become unbearable impositions for the inheritors. The friction that was once just the texture of an engaged life becomes something to be complained about, eliminated, litigated against. The difficulty that was once the price of building something becomes evidence of injustice, and eventually something arrives that requires the old capacity, the capacity of the founders, the capacity that was built in the forge that the comfortable generation dismantled because it was unpleasant, and there is nothing there. The structure stands, but the people inside it have become unable to maintain it, unable to defend it, unable to do what the founders did to build it, because the building required something that the comfort consumed. Machiavelli was not describing ancient Rome as a curiosity. He was describing you. He was describing the civilization you are inheriting and the capacity you are failing to build, because the inheritance makes the building feel unnecessary. It is not unnecessary. The forge is always necessary. The forge is the only thing that produces what the forge produces, and you cannot outsource it. You cannot inherit it. You cannot purchase it. You can only enter it. Now look at what comfort does to your relationship with yourself, not to your productivity metrics, not to your physical fitness, to the most fundamental thing, to the conversation that happens inside you in the quiet moments when there is no distraction available and you are alone with the question of who you actually are. Self-respect is not built through success. This is the lie that the comfortable life tells with the most conviction and the most damage, that if you achieve enough, earn enough, accumulate enough markers of success, you will eventually feel the solidity of a man who genuinely respects himself. You chase the external validation because you believe the external validation will produce the internal state. It never does, not sustainably, because self-respect is not a reward for achievement. It is a byproduct of integrity, of the daily alignment between what you said you would do and what you actually did, between the man you claim to be and the man your choices are producing, between the standard you hold in your head and the standard you actually live by, when the gap between them is invisible to everyone except you. Every time you choose comfort over the thing that would have made you better, You make a withdrawal from your own account of self-respect, not a dramatic one, not one that shows immediately, just a small, quiet, almost imperceptible withdrawal, a note filed in the part of you that is always watching and always recording and never lies to you, even when you are lying to yourself. He chose the easy thing again. He said he would do it, and he didn't. He knows what is required, and he is choosing comfort instead. He has been choosing comfort instead for longer than he wants to admit. These withdrawals compound, the way debt compounds, invisibly at first, then uncomfortably, then catastrophically, not into a crisis you can point to, but into a slow erosion of the belief that you are actually the man you claim to be, into the gap between your self-image and your behavior that you spend enormous energy pretending does not exist, into the low-level, persistent anxiety that does not have an obvious external source, because its source is not outside you. Its source is the discrepancy between who you say you are and who your choices are making you. The comfortable man is often the most anxious man in the room, not because his life is dangerous, because his nervous system knows, at a level beneath language, beneath rationalization, beneath all the sophisticated reasons he has constructed for why his comfort is actually wisdom, that he has not built the capacity to handle what life will eventually require, that underneath the pleasant surface there is a man who is genuinely uncertain whether he has what it takes, because he has spent years carefully avoiding the tests that would answer that question. And the uncertainty does not stay contained. It leaks into everything, into his relationships where he cannot fully commit because commitment requires the belief that you can handle what commitment will eventually demand. Into his ambitions where he cannot fully pursue because pursuit requires the belief that you can handle failure and get up and pursue again. Into his identity where he cannot fully inhabit because full inhabitation requires the belief that you are the person you are claiming to be. The comfort that was supposed to produce peace is producing a very specific kind of quiet terror. The terror of a man who built a beautiful house on sand and can feel, in certain moments, when the noise is quiet enough, the slight instability beneath his feet. Think about the men you most deeply respect, not the most successful, not the wealthiest, not the most famous, the men whose presence carries a specific weight that has nothing to do with their credentials or their accomplishments, or their status, the men whose word means something absolute, whose character you would trust in a genuine crisis, whose advice you would seek when the thing that is happening is the real thing and not the managed performance of difficulty that passes for challenge in comfortable times. Now think about what produced them, not what happened to them, what produced them, what the specific difficulties were, the failures, the losses, the periods of genuine deprivation or struggle or uncertainty or defeat that are visible underneath the solidity they now carry the way bedrock is visible underneath a mountain. You can see it if you look. The particular kind of stillness that comes from a man who has been genuinely tested and did not break. Think about whether they would be the men they are if those difficulties had been surgically removed from their history, if someone had intervened at every hard moment and made it easier, if someone had cleared the path of every obstacle that produced the specific strength you can now see in them. They would not be those men. They could not be. The difficulty is not incidental to who they became. It is not the unfortunate price they paid for the good parts. It is constitutive. It is the material that the person is made from. The forge that produced the specific quality of steel you are now trusting with important things. You cannot produce that quality without the forge. There is no alternative process. There is no shortcut that arrives at the same destination by a more comfortable route. The destination and the route are the same thing. The becoming and the difficulty are the same thing. You cannot separate them and keep both. Here is what comfort does to time that nobody talks about. Comfort compresses your relationship with the future into the immediate. The comfortable man lives in a perpetual present tense of maintained pleasantness. He is not building toward anything that requires him to be uncomfortable now. He is managing now, optimizing now, ensuring that now is as frictionless as possible, and in doing so, he is consuming the future. He is trading tomorrow's capacity for today's ease in a transaction that feels like nothing because the cost is deferred and the pleasure is immediate. But deferred costs do not disappear. They accumulate with interest. The capacity you are not building today does not stay at zero. It decreases because the world does not stay still while you stay comfortable. The world continues to develop complexity and demand. The challenges continue to grow in sophistication. The problems continue to require more of the people attempting to solve. And the man who has been standing still in his comfort is not just failing to grow, he is falling behind a moving target. This is the most frightening arithmetic of comfort. You think you are maintaining, you are actually regressing relative to everything that is continuing to develop around you. You think the comfortable life is neutral ground. It is a current running against you. And every day you spend in comfort without deliberate growth is a day the current carries you further from where you intended to be. Machiavelli understood this as the fundamental error of the times of peace. Men in easy times do not just fail to prepare for hard times. They actively develop the conditions that make hard times inevitable. The atrophy of capacity creates vulnerability. The vulnerability attracts the very difficulty that the comfort was supposed to prevent. The avoidance of the forge does not protect you from the fire. It removes your capacity to survive it when it finds you anyway. And the fire always finds you. This is the one thing that is absolutely guaranteed. The difficulty you avoided in the comfortable years will arrive in a form you did not choose, and at a time you didn't select, and at a magnitude that your unbuilt capacity cannot handle. And you will wish, with a specificity and a clarity that comfort never produces, that you had chosen differently in the quiet years when the choosing was still easy. The cold bath, say it simply, the cold bath is not about the cold bath. It is about the proof, the daily proof that you are the one making decisions in this body, that when your nervous system presents you with something it does not want, and constructs 100 reasonable arguments for why avoidance is actually wisdom, you can look at all those arguments and walk toward the thing anyway. Not because you enjoy it, not because it is pleasant, because you decided to, because the decision came from you and not from the comfort. That is the only thing the cold bath is training, not cardiovascular health, not inflammation reduction, not any of the physiological benefits that are real but secondary. It is training the single most important capacity a man can develop, the capacity to act from decision rather than from comfort, to be the author of your choices rather than the product of your preferences. And the reason this matters beyond the cold bath itself is that the muscle you build in the cold bath is the same muscle you will use everywhere else. The same capacity that walks into the cold water walks into the difficult conversation, walks into the uncertain investment, walks into the creative project that might fail, walks into the relationship truth that needs to be said, walks into every situation where the comfortable thing and the right thing are different things, and you need to choose the right one without the comfort of certainty about how it will land. Every small chosen discomfort is a deposit, not into a productivity account, into the account of your own agency, into the reserves of the man who can do hard things, not because hard things are pleasant, but because he has built the relationship with himself that makes doing hard things possible. The early morning, not for productivity, not for the extra hours, for the proof that the man who went to sleep last night making a promise to himself is the same man who keeps that promise in the morning when everything in his body is arguing against it, for the daily demonstration that you are a man whose word means something even when the only one who hears it is yourself, because the relationship you have with yourself is the foundation of every other relationship you have. And the man who breaks his word to himself consistently, who negotiates with himself every morning, who has a flexible relationship with his own commitments, that man will break his word to others, not dramatically, not consciously, but the same muscle that folds in the private moment will fold in the public one. The same willingness to renegotiate with himself will express itself as a willingness to renegotiate with the world. People feel this. They cannot always name it, but they feel the difference between a man who keeps his word to himself and a man who doesn't. The former has a quality of solidity, of predictability in the best sense, of being someone who will be where he said he would be and do what he said he would do, because that is simply how he operates in every domain of his life, including the private domains no one else can see. The latter has a quality of softness underneath the surface, of being potentially negotiable under pressure, of being a man whose commitments are really intentions and whose intentions are really preferences and whose preferences will yield to sufficient discomfort every time. The early morning is not about the morning. It is about which of those men you are deciding to be, in the smallest possible arena, with the lowest possible stakes, before the world is watching, when the only consequence of breaking the commitment is internal. That is when the real decision is made, in the private moment, in the cold and the dark and the warmth of the bed that is making its case with tremendous eloquence. What you decide there decides everything else. Nietzsche wrote about the self-overcoming as the highest human activity, not competition, not the accumulation of external markers, the daily, private, unglamorous victory over the version of yourself that wants to stop, that wants to rest before the work is done, that wants the result without the process, that wants to be the man without enduring the becoming. He said the secret for harvesting from existence the greatest fruitfulness and the greatest enjoyment is to live dangerously, not recklessly, but with a daily willingness to be in situations that require something from you, that do not allow you to coast, that do not permit you to be the comfortable, managed, optimized for pleasantness version of yourself indefinitely. Because that version of yourself is not your highest version, it is your most recent version. And your most recent version is not the destination, it is the current position. And the current position is only acceptable if you are moving from it towards something. If you are using it as a launching point rather than a resting place. If you understand that comfort earned is a resource to be invested in growth and not a state to be preserved indefinitely. The men who became the things worth becoming in this world were not the men who found comfort and protected it. They were the men who found comfort and used it as fuel, who rested long enough to recover and then immediately put themselves back in situations that required something from them, who understood rest as a phase in a cycle and not as a destination, who were always, underneath the temporary stillness, oriented toward the next difficulty, the next challenge, the next version of themselves that the next forge would produce. You feel it underneath the comfort, underneath the routine and the managed life, and the pleasant enough existence that asks nothing too difficult of you. You feel the thing pressing upward, the pressure that does not have a name and does not respond to more comfort and does not go away no matter how thoroughly you optimize the conditions of your pleasantness. That pressure is not a problem to be solved. That pressure is not restlessness or ingratitude or a mental health symptom that needs to be managed into silence. That pressure is your future trying to reach you through the insulation of your comfort. It is the man you were supposed to become knocking on the walls of the man you have settled for being. It is the forge calling, not cruelly, not impatiently, but persistently, the way truth is always persistent, the way the thing that is real about you always eventually makes itself known, no matter how thoroughly you have padded the walls against it. The comfort cannot silence it permanently. It can only delay the reckoning. It can only push forward the moment when you have to look at the gap between the man you are and the man you could have been and make your peace with the distance, or decide that the distance is still closable and begin the work of closing it. Every day of comfort is a day that gap widens. Every day of chosen difficulty is a day that gap narrows. It is the simplest arithmetic there is, and you already know which direction you have been moving in. The question is what you decide to do about it. Not tomorrow, not when the conditions are better, not when you feel ready. Now, in the small, unglamorous arena of the next hour, in the choice between the comfortable thing and the thing that will make you stronger, in the forge that is available to you right now, not later. Now, get in. The cold does not care about your reasons, and neither does the future you are either building or abandoning with every choice you make in the comfort of the present. Get in. Mindferal.